All right. So this is Matthew here. I'm here with Alex. And what's your last name, Alex?
Feliz.
Feliz. Alex Feliz. Alexander Feliz, full name. Also known as the Three Familia King, which I love. And that's definitely been the connotation of our conversation today is family orientation. We just completed a wonderful session. We went for nearly an hour and a half, diving deep into your psychology around what's most important to you, like what is this life all about, and so much more that we just don't have the time to go into. But Alex, what was the biggest takeaway or what was the biggest gain that you got out of our time today?
Without a doubt, the absolute biggest gain that I got out of today's conversation, out of today's session, if you will, was the clarity that I got from acknowledging all of the subconscious ways in which I was holding myself back, acknowledging the levels of pride that I wasn't even consciously aware that I had, the comfort zone that I was in, the lack of gratitude that I had for the resources that I had at my disposal, you know. And again, like we were talking about before, we don't like to necessarily acknowledge that we are experiencing those things. We like to think that we're on top of it. But again, it goes back to that pride. It goes back to being comfortable in that space of normality that we're in. And we're doing fine. Nobody's saying that, but we're not where we want to be. And in order to get to where we want to be, we have to acknowledge the things that are holding us back. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's having clear what that is, what all of that is. And the feeling is indescribable. The feeling, the joy that having this conversation brought to the forefront is priceless. It's absolutely priceless, and I can't thank you enough, man. You know, that's the absolute biggest thing is the clarity surrounding all of this through the conversation and the way that we have spoken about everything today, and knowing that it's not as hard. You know, we make it a lot harder than it actually is to undergo this process. You know, we may think we don't need it, right? But again, it's part of everything that I just mentioned that holds us back from becoming more of what we could be. You know, giving ultimately everything that we could give to life, to what we do for work, you know, and making our life what we want it to be, continuing to grow, right? In order to do that, we have to acknowledge the things that are holding us back, and knowing also that it's not as hard as we make it out to be. We put a lot of that pressure on ourselves. And if we can acknowledge that, the process is a lot easier. It's a lot simpler. So, you know, it may be a bit difficult for each person. We have that level of difficulty. For me, you know, I had to face that difficulty before we hopped on the call, you know, acknowledge, you know, it is not as hard as you're thinking it is. You know, whatever may come of this session, just come as you are. Come as you are to the session. Let it perform its work. You need this. You're having this conversation because you need something like this to get you out of where you were. And that's okay. To be okay with that. You know, relieving all of that pressure. That man, that helped a lot. That helped immensely. And I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it, man, for being a real friend. A real friend. You know, more importantly than anything. You know, we need friends like that, to be that kind of friend for other people. And that's ultimately what will make us successful. You know, there's all these, you know, words like entrepreneur and businessman and businesswoman, but ultimately what people remember is the kind of friend you were to them when they needed your help, when they needed you to be a friend. You know, even if it's work related, who you are as a person, the kind of friend you are to that person. That's that's what inspired them to work with you in the first place, or buy from you, or whatever it is, right? It's the kind of friend that you are. And you were that friend to me throughout this conversation. And I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. And based on your experience today, Alex, would you recommend that others engage in this type of experience as well?
I would absolutely recommend it. And you see my Zoom tag is Three Familia King, right? That in Spanish, familia stands for family. The three is for living from a space of truth, beauty, and love. And as a man, one wants to be the king of his domain. One wants to be sovereign and to govern, so to speak, in a way that is becoming of one that comes from that space of truth, beauty, and love. You want to rule with wisdom. You want to bring the best out in yourself so that you can do so for your world. And I can't recommend having a conversation like this with you so that we're able to do that. I know that after having had this conversation, I'll be able to do that more fully. I'm able to remember that inspiration that I had to do the work that I do now and to continue doing it in fuller measure. So I can't recommend it enough.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I appreciate that. And Alex, may I have your permission to share this video with others?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It would be an honor, man. Thank you.
Perfect, brother. Perfect.